8.5 points in his first 2 games in this tournament, will be coming off the bench.
He hands it off to you. He's setting a back for Hamadi for
We're hearing, of course, this team being led
not
by
getting back out to Jay.
Coach Charles Chu,
Ball screen
talking
to
about
Ball.
Mighty Sports
Right.
Philippines.
Jay sets the tone defense.
What has impressed you about the
Get off
composition and how this team has played so far in the tournament, Coach?
For the first 2 games, they were just really running over the 2 teams that they battled against. The first one was Iran, that's what you've mentioned. The next one was against Jordan, and the chemistry was obviously present. These are guys who have not played together before, and all of a sudden was requested to don the Mighty Sports jersey, and they're just playing so well so far, and we just hope that they can sustain the effort that they've done after 2 games.
Absolutely. Well, so far so good from the team from the Philippines. Mighty Sports go for gold, but it should be a tough one here against Japan. It was actually a very thrilling win that Japan took against Chinese Taipei A, which we know is no pushover in this tournament. That Chinese Taipei A team is one of the more consistent teams. It's the national team of Taiwan, and they have been joining this tournament also in preparation for bigger battles in the FIBA tournaments. And for this Japan team, not exactly the national team of Japan, to be able to take down Chinese Taipei A was a big thing.
A lot of familiar faces, of course. The Philippine basketball is familiar with their point guard, number 3, Seiya Ando, who played for the Meralco Bulls in 2015. He averaged 8 points per ball game, and that was the time when we were allowing Asian imports to play in the PBA. And let us see, he must be guarded in order for Mighty Sports to have an opportunity to win in this ball game.
Here is our Health Cube first quarter, brought to you by Health Cube. Moore, first touch of that basketball. Isolation between him and Harimoto. Swings it to Brickman. Brickman attacking. He's usually best at distributing that basketball, but scoring the first points for Mighty Sports go for gold.
He has the quickness. He's a facilitator, and he is a good one. He usually gets the other guys involved in offense, but he has that quick first step, and he can just blow by anybody. And against Japan, he must be guarded.
Well, Mighty Sports go for gold is such a well-rounded team. You take a look at that starting lineup. You have offense, and obviously a lot of guys there. Brickman can really move that basketball around. And then on the defensive end, you can always rely on Ronaldo Bogman and Yai, 2 great defensive players. It's a miss though for Moore, and possibly a frustration foul there, Coach.
Spacing is so good. There are a lot of opportunities for the players for as long as you can break down your defender to attack the basket. But for Japan, the second time that they played defense was so much better because the help side stance was present.
Let's see what Japan will be able to do here. Ando puts it up. Unsuccessful in that 3-pointer. On the counter-attack, Mighty Sports go for gold. Moore has been very aggressive to start this game. Gray puts it up. No good. Japan setting up their offense. Ando off the curl. Free throw jumper. The B shot's just not falling for Japan, but those are a couple of good looks that Ando took.
We're just, well, Mighty Sports is just lucky that the shots are not yet falling in. As far as Mighty Sports is concerned, they're still going under the screen. So if you go under the screen, it's like a chance for the Japanese players to shoot that perimeter jumper. And for as long as they're not making it, expect the defense of Mighty Sports to remain the same.
You know, another familiar guy to the Philippines is that guy who threw that ball away, A.V. Schaefer, who the national team of the Philippines played against in the Asian Games last year. He was part of that Japan national team. He's looking to help his squad here, but that lob pass from Brickman, a bit too high for Ndiaye.
And what is obvious here, the Japanese national team is just giving a lot of experience for the young guys to compete in international level tournaments. We've talked about Schaefer. He will be part of the national team in the future. You're correct. He was one of the guys that we scouted when we played against them in the Asian Games. And what was just so unfortunate, if I remember correctly, was the team of Japan, at least 4 of the key players were suspended in the Asian Games, and
Yes.
that is why their performance really took a nosedive.
Yeah, they were actually doing well, but then, you know, they ran into that trouble, that controversy where, well, they went out and then they were
They were not supposed to be there, wearing their
Exactly.
national team.
More on that, more on
Oh
that.
my
Not wearing
goodness.
your country's colors. This is where you should be on the court.
That's right.
Oh, nice play there for Japan, and that is why Mighty Sports Go for Goal will have to worry about Schaefer because he connects very well with Ando.
He rolls strong to the basket. He has good hands. He has the ability to catch while moving. Now, these were 2 different kinds of defenses that Mighty Sports did. And it was a huge adjustment because the first shot was a shot from the 3. And that is why they had to adjust. The man-up screener helped out a little bit, but the help side defense was not ready to cover the man who was left wide open. So that is one thing that Mighty Sports probably needs to do. A lot of communication inside on defense and just a lot of rotation, especially if they want to do a lot of special defenses on ball screens.
Well, you know, for the Philippines, this man, like we mentioned earlier, has been ultra aggressive to start this game. Now we have some familiar names as well on the Mighty Sports Go for Gold Philippine squad. Some guys have already been imports in the Philippine Basketball Association. Mackenzie Moore is not one of them, and so he's using this tournament to introduce himself. But Mighty Sports will have to be able to shut down Shota Ando, who has been making plays for Japan.
One thing is certain, every time you go up against Japan, especially the guards, they can really shoot from the outside. And you must step on the white line. If there is one thing that Mighty Sports has to do, especially on the half-court sets, is just force the guards to drive and hope the help side defenders are there to be rim protectors. But turnover, missed shots, fast break for Japan, transition defense not quick enough for the white shirts.
There seems to have been a drastic change in the energy of this Japanese team. Suddenly stepping on that gas pedal, and they have taken a 10-5 lead. Short jumper is good for Japan. They go up by 7. 2 points delivered by Hashimoto.
I'm surprised that Mighty Sports is not calling a timeout. This is a big 7-point advantage for Japan now.
Well, Moore is the guy they rely on to stop that Japan surge. And he attacks the inside, gets the 2 points.
So one thing is certain, Coach Charles Chu is allowing his players to self-correct. And good thing for Gray, he saw a tiny opening, went up there, showing a lot of athleticism as well. 5 points in the ball game on a 2 out of 5 shooting, make it 6. Took at the lead of Japan to just 4 points.
Oh, he is averaging 12 points per game in this tournament. So quick start for him. But Ando once again getting away. Fortunately for Mighty Sports, he missed that jumper. Moore once more. Bogman, that familiar attack. Ronaldo Bogman, 1 up, 1 in.
That's one mature player. He just knows how to get himself open on penetrations. Very good touch from the outside. Can also shoot a lot of floaters and is a very tough defender.
Good contest there from Gray. Really making it difficult for Ando to get that bucket. And quick attack on the other side. Now, Moore is not necessarily getting those baskets, but he's drawing a lot of fouls and finding himself at the free throw line.
Is aggressive. But what was so nice early on the defense of Mighty Sports, knowing that the perimeter players were already shooting from the outside. So what they did was they forced the guard to penetrate, and they have long and wide players, athletically gifted guys who can be rim protectors. And as a result, they were able to foil that shot, which resulted in a fast break opportunity for Mighty Sports. And now MZ Moore with 7 points, 3 out of 3 from the free throw line. So one thing is certain, if Mighty Sports get the necessary stops, they can actually run because they have the quickness to blow by Japan.
So Mighty Sports will want to make this a fast game, a running game, coach.
Of course, and you look at the talent pipeline also, the bench depth, it is very deep. Eugene Phelps is going to come off the bench. Even Graham is coming off the bench. And who knows, you might even see Joseph Yo come off the bench.
Oh, we have a timeout here. Score is tied at 12 apiece. This timeout is brought to you by Go for Gold. We'll be back with more action from the William Jones Cup. It's always fun to see fans support their teams, especially when they play in different countries. You see fans of Japan cheering all the way in Chinese Taipei. I'm sure there are a lot of Filipinos as well supporting Mighty Sports Go for Gold. And it's just a fact when a team is wearing a country's colors, there's a lot of pride involved, and that's why we're seeing great action here in the William Jones Cup. Once again, Ronaldo Bachmann looking for a point of attack, but there was a foul whistled. Now, Coach Ryan, something important developing here, is also on the side, favoring the side of Mighty Sports Go for Gold, is that the guy who scored 17 points and grabbed 8 rebounds in that win against Chinese Taipei for Japan picked up 2 early fouls, and that was Hashimoto, and he had to sit down early in this first quarter. It was also a product of the aggressiveness of Mackenzie Moore.
Now, it's going to be a huge challenge for the guys coming in. The 17 points obviously is not easy to get. So for Japan, what they need to do is, again, 4 stops. They were able to do that in the opening minutes of the first quarter, and that is why they scored early. In fact, at one point, they were up by 7 points, 12-5, but a huge 7-0 blitz by the Philippines, and now that the score is tied.
Like you said, Coach Charles Chu just allowing his players to do their own, come up with their own remedy, because they allowed Japan to get a 7-point lead early in the match. And it seems as though Ronaldo Bachmann is taking his time to impose himself in this game. It really has been more driving the offense of Mighty Sports, but Ronaldo Bachmann looking to go to work now, draws a foul, will head to the line.
He's a very skillful player. What is so nice about this guy is he brings a lot of toughness on defense. He can grab the ball and be a monster on the defensive end. And he can dribble the ball and start their fast break situation. So a lot of upside, a lot of positive things. He can bring a lot of good things on the table. And he is just hard to guard, especially against thinner and smaller defenders because of his upper body strength.
We have to remember this guy played a lot of years in the NBA and was also a champion in the CN Basketball League. Ronaldo Bachmann has found himself representing the Philippines in many competitions. He gives Mighty Sports Go for Gold a 2-point lead here, 14-12.
And you know that he's also a mainstay in his country, the Puerto Rican national team. So you know that this guy's experience is 35 years old, and but still a lot of basketball years ahead of him.
And you can tell that he
Look
really
at that.
takes care of his body and has been unstoppable.
And a bucket
getter.
2 minutes ago, I said that he has the ability to get that rebound, put the ball down, and just break down defenders.
Door-to-door delivery for Ronaldo Bogman. He's got 6 points. Good pass, Harimoto. Offensive rebound, unsuccessful. Bogman again a rebound. He's been grabbing a lot of those. And Eugene Phelps immediately makes his impact felt. That 7-0 run from the Philippines earlier has turned into a 13-2 blitz, forcing Japan to call another timeout, brought to you by Go for Gold.
Your guy, pass the ball and you say this. I want close. Not wide, but close, no space. They, all the punto play, what? Pass direct or shooting here. They want to shoot here. If they play with the space, it's easy, it's business for them. But we are playing like selfish in defense. I defend my man, stop. I defend my man, and it's okay. No, team defense.
Well, obviously, Japan's coach preaching that they need to play better defense. What did you notice, Coach Ryan, that they need to correct on that end?
It was just mano-a-mano defense, purely one-on-one, and the coach of Japan was begging his players to play team defense because it is just so hard to go up against the players from the Mighty Sports Go for Gold team on a single coverage. So help side stance is something that he wants to see in the next few minutes of play. But for Mighty Sports Go for Gold, what was so evident in the last few plays was they were really trying to guard the shooters from the outside. Good thing, this guy, first time in this ball game to score inside the basket, but it was still a challenge shot. So for the Philippines, what they need to do is challenge the outside shooters, force the guards of Japan to penetrate, because they have good help side defenders, and for as long as they get the rebound, they can just put the ball down and score in fast break situations. Look at Eugene Phelps. He is definitely stronger than his actual height. So he's going to be a matchup nightmare against Japan. Look at that, he's posting up. He's about 6'5", but he has the ability to score inside and even shoot from the perimeter.
Eugene Phelps is actually a natural shooting guard when he was trying to get drafted in the NBA, but it seems as though his game has evolved into something else, of course having to play internationally.
And we've seen him modify his game even in the PBA. You know, there's a certain kind of an import, especially in the third conference in the PBA, wherein you really have to be strong inside to create matchup problems against your opponent. But with Eugene Phelps, you know that he's going to come in every single year. He's going to play for Phoenix again. I'll be surprised if they don't bring him back, basically because of his skill set and his strength.
I remember one time he scored 53 points and grabbed 16 rebounds on a chipped tooth. And that is just amazing.
It's tough.
But you know, in this game, Coach, Japan staying in it because of their three-point shooting. They've hit 3 threes already. Mighty Sports hasn't hit one. Now the Japanese trying to draw closer here. Two-man game being deployed. They get it to the post, but great defense from Mikey Williams taking that ball away. Counter attack from the Philippines. Great defense for Japan. Now that's more of the team defense that their coach wants to see. Mighty Sports recovers. Bogman. Ronaldo Bogman, first miss of the game for him. Another three for Japan. Not this time. And it will bounce on the back of the backboard. Out of bounds. Possible last shot time for Mighty Sports.
And good adjustment on the part of Japan. They're now offering help side defense, sometimes 2 or 3 guys are actually collapsing on perceived mismatches, and they're not stopping on a rotation. They're stopping their defense after they get the possession. So that's good mentally. Now they have to do it consistently.
And this is what you've been saying about Eugene Phelps. Such a strong player, especially for someone who is 6'5". You can even call him undersized in terms of height for his position, but his strength really makes up for it.
He's undersized, yes, but he's so strong and he can even move taller defenders, and he is painful. Every time you sacrifice your body, you're gonna get a foul, and that is exactly what that guy experienced early on. And he needs to put ice after the game because of the brute strength of Eugene Phelps.
And for Nico Williams, it's not just Phelps that he'll have to stop. He might have to be the one who puts a body in front of Bogman, in front of Ndiaye, Graham. We can go down the list. And Japan will miss that last second shot. After the first quarter, Mighty Sports Go for Gold Philippines takes a 5-point lead, 22-17. Back in the 2019 William Jones Cup, Judd Sulit alongside Coach Ryan Gregorio here, bringing the action between Mighty Sports, Go for Gold Philippines, and Japan. Incredible action we're seeing, and well, in the first quarter it was a lot of Mackenzie Moore and Ronaldo Bogman, but Japan stayed in it. They had to come back from a 13-0 run that Mighty Sports went on. But they did it by hitting three-pointers, and the guy who brought life to them was Shuta Ando. He had 6 points in that first period, and well, they still are down at the end of the first quarter. But Japan will have a lot of time. What are the corrections, Coach Ryan, that Japan might have to do here in the second quarter?
Well, they made the necessary adjustments toward the last few minutes of the first quarter because they felt like they could not stop the players from the Philippines on a single coverage, and they started to offer help. And they were so active on defense that they forced turnovers. They were able to force a hard or missed shots from the Philippines, and that propelled them to score on fast breaks. They shot so well from the three-pointer. We're talking about Japan in the first 10 minutes of play. So they just have to shoot consistently well from the outside and try to get inside and get fouls, because they did not go to the free throw line a lot of times in the first.
This second quarter is brought to you by HealthQ. Action about to get underway. We're hearing some reminders from Coach Charles Chu. He spearheads this Mighty Sports Go for Gold team. All right, second quarter underway. Japan will have first crack at the basket. They set up another three-pointer, but a bad miss for them that time. Hoshino did not get anything. Phelps attacking once more. And this is the reason why the Philippines, or Mighty Sports, does not need to take a lot of three-pointers. They only attempted one in the first quarter because they're having so much success attacking the basket.
It is a combination of strength inside, because even Williams, the defender that tried to stop Eugene Phelps, was actually dislodged because of that slight body-up attack of Eugene Phelps. But if Williams can get his way also on offense, because he has the length, a lot of high-low plays for Japan, then this is where Japan can actually maximize their strength in especially in the height department.
A tough three-pointer knocked down by Mikey Williams. That's the first three-point make for Mighty Sports Go for Gold. And now they become scarier because they have a guy, actually they have two guys on the court who are great at knocking down outside shots, Williams and Roosevelt Adams. But Williams tried to go too creative that time, turns the ball over.
And that's a mortal sin. Every time you fly high, go up in the air, you just want to make sure that you know where your safety valve passes are. You just can't think up there because you have to go down. And if you're not certain where the pass is going to go to, then you're going to turn the ball over.
Unfortunately for Japan, they had a dunk at them from Giga Williams, but it did stay down. Graham off the glass, no good. And we're seeing now really that adjustment on the defensive end. The players responded to the instruction of the coach to play team defense. You'll see a couple of guys always on in the inside whenever a Filipino player or a Mighty Sports player is attacking. Williams, sweeping hook, defended well by Phelps. Phelps, open lane. 2 points delivered by Eugene Phelps, leading scorer of Mighty Sports Go for Gold in the tournament.
And this is what is so obvious. Phelps can definitely handle Williams' strength inside the paint, but Williams cannot handle the quickness of Eugene Phelps.
It's also one thing, Coach, that we've seen in this game. So many players from Mighty Sports Go for Gold, they can go one-on-one. You can even say any player on the floor right now from Mighty Sports has that ability to take their defender one-on-one, but that's not an option on the other side for Japan.
It's a problem for them. Obviously, probably their youth is a factor. Their experience not up there compared to the experience of the players from Mighty Sports Go for Gold. And a lot of the faces, I've seen a lot of players from the national team. I've scouted a lot of Japanese players, and I'm only familiar with probably 4 players from Japan right now. So this is a youth development that they're trying to institute at this point.
And at that, I want to ask you how important it is for national teams to have the William Jones Cup, not really having a lot of impact or implications in the FIBA picture, but it gives a lot of these national teams the chance to expose their younger players to tough competition.
It is always nice to be represented. If you're the national team, to play in the Jones Cup, it's a great and perfectly organized tournament. It's been on for the longest time. I remember a few years ago, we represented the Philippines using our Gilas Pilipinas brand.
Correct.
And we were able to win a championship. And 2 years ago, also Mighty Sports took on the task of representing the country once again and won another championship. Last year, it was the Ateneo Blue Eagles. They were definitely young as compared to the opposition, but look at the experience that they were able to generate. When they went back to the Philippines, they won a championship in the UAAP.
There was also a year that we used our Gilas Pilipinas cadets at that time, and we didn't win the championship at that time, but the valuable experience and lessons that these teams were able to, that those young players were able to get, was really evident when they went up into the Gilas Pilipinas men's or the main team.
And you have to understand that this is a very good platform, especially if you are preparing for a stint in September.
Yeah.
Teams who will make it to the 2019 World Cup in China, some of them are actually here trying to get games, go up against tough teams, get their timing back, better chemistry for their team. But of course, it did not happen for the Philippines because the PBA is in season. So that is one reason why we are so happy as a federation that Mighty Sports came in just to make sure that our country is represented here, not only to win and compete against tough opponents, but also to bring home the crown.
We have, or the Philippines, Mighty Sports has been very proud, and they've been raising the Philippine flag very well in this tournament, having won their first 2 games, looking to get another W here. But Williams lost the ball, counter-attack for Japan. Harimoto steps into a three-pointer. That guy, Harimoto, is one of the more veteran guys on that Japan squad, having been part of the Japanese national team for a while. Ko Flippin, however, could not get to that basketball. The Philippines will have it again, possession. Mackenzie Moore and Jason Brickman checking back into the game.
And remember, in 2023, we'll be hosting a FIBA 2023 World Cup together with two other countries, Indonesia and Japan. So we also have a lot of good things going for us with this teams, and you also have to credit Japan now with the different kind of interest generated by the drafting of Rui Hachimura in the NBA.
Absolutely.
The guy is playing with the Washington Wizards. He was picked at number 9, and that has been a long time dream for Filipinos to finally have someone to be drafted in the PBA. And Japan actually has 2 players in the NBA now. One, of course, I've mentioned about Hachimura, and the other one is Yuta Watanabe.
And you know, for Japan as well, in the FIBA picture, remember the earlier parts of the FIBA qualifiers, coach? Teams were just running them over. And then suddenly, they brought in Hachimura to the picture as well as Nick Fazekas, and they turned into a great team, even took down Australia.
At one point, they were like 2-4, and all of a sudden, they were unbeaten the rest of the way. And that is why they will also be part of the 2019 World Cup. It was a totally different story when you talk about Lebanon. Lebanon was way up there, 4-2 at one point, if I'm not mistaken, and all of a sudden lost 5 straight, and they will not make it to the World Cup.
Well, we have another timeout brought to you by Go for Gold. The Philippines up 33-24.
Elbow again. Jason. The ball. Mikey, this is you. Mac. Kashi. Eugene. Pass the ball. Take handle. When that's happening, Mikey. When the ball catch the ball, you're going to set it back for Eugene. Right? Now, if we can't get the ball to Eugene in the block, Eugene set a cross feed for Mac.
And after that,
You're here. Mikey setting a diagonal screen.
Back in Taiwan for the continuation of the 2019 William Jones Cup. Well, in one day, we have so many games being played in this stadium, and that's why you see these fans, they make it all the way to the venue because they don't get disappointed. And this one so far being controlled by Mighty Sports Go for Gold. What have they been doing correctly, Coach Ryan?
For one, the outside shots are no longer consistent for Japan, meaning that was a huge adjustment on the part of Mighty Sports Go for Gold. Challenging shots, securing the defensive rebounds, and running on fast breaks. And that has been the key for the Philippines. And Japan has no answer at this point. They must shoot well from the outside, and they must defend. I know that it's hard. It's not going to be easy for them to go mano-a-mano against the Philippine players, but they just have to try. Otherwise, it's going to be a long day for them.
The Japanese in their offense, they've been moving that ball around well. Unfortunately, even if they spot an open man, those shots haven't been falling down.
Fundamentally, they're doing the right thing. A lot of ball movements, a lot of man action, but they're just limited to one shot. That is a huge issue right now. That is great team defense. Look at that. Phelps underneath the basket. 4 guys collapse, and for Japan, that has been what was the coach was preaching earlier. It was a well-run play for Mighty Sports.
Yes.
But look at the guys, the tall trees, all of a sudden Phelps had nowhere to go.
And he couldn't even see who among his teammates were open because the defense just really closed down on everyone.
Basic.
9-point lead for the Philippines.
Go on the line.
This is another
Mikey
timeout
inbound.
brought to you by Go for Gold.
Jason, this is you. Eugene.
We'll cut to a short break and we'll be back with more of the 2019 William Jones
The other
Cup.
guy. Mackenzie. Break. Ball.
Okay? It's Nissan.
Eugene Phelps off to another strong start here. We're still in the second quarter and he already has 10 points and 4 boards. Bogman also a contributor in this game. Williams, pass deflected. Taken away by Ando. He sets up Harimoto, hesitated on that open look. So Japan will reset their offense. Seiya Ando using that pick from Schaefer. 10 on the shot clock for Japan. They kick it out. Ando looking to break down Bogman, but couldn't do so. Ronaldo just putting a body on him and shutting the door.
And I like the effort of Bogman. He was already late, but because of his length, he did not give a breathing room for Seiya Ando to get his shot off. So it was again a brilliant defensive gem for the Philippines.
Long shot there for Hashimoto. No go. Ball picked up by Brickman. These teams, well, Mighty Sports almost back to their starting lineup with the exception of Aaron Black seeing action here in the second quarter. Brickman. Not the best spacing there. He lobs it up to Ndiaye. And again, so many players of Japan just clogging that middle and forcing that turnover.
You post up next time.
3-second violation called on Ndiaye.
Now you look at Japan, they're playing tougher defense, but the problem really for them is where are they going to get the points? Because they've stopped at least 2 of the last offensive attempts of Mighty Sports Go for Gold, but they could not turn it into precious points for them.
Let's see who can provide for Japan. They've been silent for a while now, stuck at 24. Harimoto still could not get a bucket. He was actually able to put that up over the hands of Ndiaye.
You look at Ndiaye, you know that his offense is still something that he needs to develop. But why is he inside? He is just a defensive monster. So for as long as the guards are guarding the guy shooting from the outside and just force the small players from Japan to put the ball down and penetrate, then leave the rest of the way to Ndiaye to cover so much space on D.
Back in the first quarter, Mighty Sports was 0 for 1 from 3-point range. Japan was 3 for 8, but that story flipped here in the second quarter, and that's why Mighty Sports Go for Gold has now built a 12-point lead. Mackenzie Moore. Now it's Brickman. See, Japan has been able to get stops, like you said, Coach Ryan, but also, like you said, they haven't been able to translate it into points. That was an open look, but still nothing for Hashimoto. Bogman. Brickman wide open. Was that a pass?
If I were Brickman, I would say yes, I saw Aaron Black there underneath. My first assist instead of 0 out of 1 from the field.
Well, they'll take the 2 points. Mighty Sports Go for Gold, threatening to break this game completely open. They go up by 14. We have a timeout brought to you by Go for Gold.
Guys, it's impossible because we have 24 seconds, not 40, 30 like NCAA. Understand? I don't want to change your style, but I want to teach to you how it's better for the team. If you go and it's easy for them because they are bigger than us. Hey, if some guys decided, say, I'm tired of Sam, but when they play 5 to 5, when they play 5 to 5,
It's Mighty Sports Go for Gold up by 14 points with a minute and 6 remaining in the first half. Sean Sulit and Coach Ryan Gregorio on deck to serve you on this Sunday afternoon. And once again, thank you for joining us. William Jones Cup straight from China's Taipei. We got many teams being represented. This is, well, like we've been talking about, sort of the younger team of the younger pool of the national team of Japan. And representing the Philippines is Might Esports Go for Gold, a collection of players, of some players in the Philippines, reinforced, of course, by imports. And the interesting thing about the imports of Might Esports is they come from all over the world. You have Bachman from Puerto Rico, you have Njai from Senegal, and Schaefer finally gets that jam that he has been looking for.
Finally, a well-run offense for Japan. We heard a little bit the coach of Japan showing a lot of frustration because he just couldn't get the right execution. Even if they're forcing stops, as what we've mentioned, they just could not translate it into precious baskets. So after the timeout, a well-run play that resulted to 2 points for his team. Let's see if they're gonna run the same thing again.
And that has been something they found success with, that pick and roll. Whether it's Ando and Schaefer, earlier it was Flippin and Williams who went with that pick and roll, and that is something that has broken down the defense of Might Esports. They take a 3-pointer here though. No go, and Might Esports Go for Gold will settle down and will try to take the last shot of the first half. Ball is with Moore. 2 seconds to go. Post up from downtown. And that will be the end of the first half. I'm not sure if that was the shot that Might Esports wanted.
The shot clock was winding down. Moore had no other choice but to launch that shot. But still a good second quarter for the Philippines. They started slowly in the first, was down by as big as 7 points. And towards the end of the first quarter, things started to shape up for the Philippines. And now they're enjoying a 12-point lead at the end of 2 quarters.
Pero recording na kayo ng second game na yun. I mean, tapos na ba yung second game na na-record o recording na? Sige, sige. Sige, record nyo lang dyan direct.
Simmons.
So also 6. Pre-record nung... Oh, after nga to, ano na na, fourth bump na. Ano na, direct, papunta schedule.
At the 2019 William Jones Cup, it's halftime here between Mighty Sports Go for Gold Philippines and Japan. Mighty Sports on top right now by 12, 38-26. Shot Sulit and Coach Ryan Gregorio serving you this ball game, and you're taking a look at the highlights of the first half. What stood out for you, Coach Ryan, from these teams?
Well, for the Philippines, they just woke up. They decided to play good basketball, especially in the last 6 minutes of the first quarter. They started to take their defense seriously. They grabbed defensive rebounds, and they just pushed the ball. And Japan simply had no answer with the speed of the Philippines.
You know, it felt like the first quarter and the second quarter were night and day for Japan. First quarter, they were doing okay, not really spectacular on offense, but they were doing enough to be able to keep in step with Mighty Sports. But the defense, they were allowing too many easy looks for Mighty Sports. In the second quarter, it flipped. They were playing better defense, but not translating it into points.
And look at this fast break attack of the Philippines. Nobody in front of Eugene Phelps. And the outside shots also started to come in. Williams hit some shots from the outside too. And the difference again for the Philippines is they started to play tough defense on the outside. This is more of an exception, that slam dunk of Schaefer, because there was a mistake on the defensive rules. But in general, if you allow your opponents, or your opponent for this matter, to score just 26 points on a 26.8% field goal shooting and 16.7% from the three-point area, that means you're playing exceptional defense. But for Japan, even if you're playing like this, you're still happy, relatively happy that you're only down 12 points.
Yeah.
At this point, the Philippines should have been up by more than 20.
Oh, this is now our third quarter, brought to you by Help Cube. One thing also that we saw there on the statistics, Mighty Sports Go for Gold already has 10 turnovers as compared to the 5 of Japan. So again, those are plus points for Japan, but they need more plus points on that scoreboard, as it's Mighty Sports, courtesy of Ronaldo Bogman, who adds 2 more with that jam. 14-point advantage for Mighty Sports. Flip it. see a lot of those shots. They try to create shots for themselves and just not finding success.
And it's a huge gamble because the defensive coverage of the Philippines is they're going under the screen every time there is a ball screen. And now they're relying on the man of screener. That time it was Bachmann. Because of his strength, he was still able to bother the shot of Japan. And now 5 straight points for the Philippines. And I expect Japan to call a quick timeout just to make sure that the lead does not balloon.
Toes. Hoshino. He was fouled by Bogman. I think that's something that we see a lot of from Ronaldo Bogman when the defender or the offensive player he's guarding gets that first step on him. He usually just gives up a foul when he loses the guy on the first step.
Well, it is important, and part of your basketball education early on is you have to play defense with your legs. And obviously, since Bachmann is already 35 years old, most of the time, players, younger, quicker guys will just blow by him. And instead of giving a quick or an easy two-pointer, might as well foul so that they can defend again on a 5-on-5 coverage. But there was a problem earlier. We saw that the other import, Mackenzie Moore, might have twisted his knee a little bit. I hope we can get an insider report just to make sure we got that right.
Yeah, and that's why we saw him go
Limping,
back to the bench. And there he is. Again, walking
shaking
back.
it, yes.
He looks like he's on his way back to the bench of Mighty Sports. So that's a good sign for the Philippine team. Adams. He hit one earlier, but misses this three-pointer. He's such a big weapon for Mighty Sports, being 6'5", the ability to hit it. Oh, that's the second missed dunk for Williams. And on the other side, Ronaldo Bachmann shows him how it's done.
But sometimes if you get lazy on defense, you get rewarded. Bachmann did not even go back on defense, and he just like gambled that Williams will miss. And when they got the ball on the other side, it was unmolested.
Maybe
Easy 2
Ronaldo's,
points.
maybe he's psychic. Maybe he knew that was going to happen. But it's the running game, Coach Ryan, of Mighty Sports that's getting them a lot of baskets right now.
That's deflating. If you're Japan, you're trying to bounce back. You have an advantage because the defender of Williams was just lagging on the other side of the court, and then you miss a slam dunk. So that can really demotivate you, especially if you're trying to launch a comeback.
Flip in, gets to the cup. Finally, Japan showing a sequence where they were able to get to the basket. Brickman sends it out to Williams. On the floor for Mighty Sports, you have Mikey Williams, Jason Brickman. That guy, Ronaldo Bachmann, unable to score. Roosevelt Adams as well, and Zach Graham. For Japan, it's Ko Flippin, Hiraiwa, and then Williams joined as well by Hoshino.
Flippin. And it's not a flippin' no.
That's a funky name, though. I wonder if he gets to choose that, because some of these guys, they are possibly American Japanese,
right?
Or
Yes.
half Japanese, half something else, and I wonder if he gets to choose that name. But he is someone who's trying to work the offense of Japan right now.
Oh, he's got lightning quickness. He's got 8 points across his name right now, trying to be the spark plug. Japan, after the first few minutes, it seemed like they lost their steam, and they're just trying to bounce back.
However, they allowed the Philippines a second try, and that's what they got. 3 points, courtesy of Brickman. How impressed are you with Jason Brickman, Coach?
He's very steady. He's got of course, the eyes and the mind of a facilitator. It doesn't take a lot of shots, but he's ultra efficient, especially when he's wide open. He has the range from the outside. can he make it to the PBA? What's the profile of Brickman?
See, the thing about Brickman is when he was born,
Okay.
he has Filipino parents, but by the time he was born, his parents was already an American citizen. And under the Constitution, that makes him an American and not a Filipino. So you have to go through due process for him to be able to be eligible to the PBA.
Okay.
But Brickman is, of course, he's proven already what he's capable of in international scene. And there he is again, setting up Roosevelt Adams for another three-pointer. And it seems, Coach Archie, that everyone that Coach Charles Chu deploys in this game is able to give him something positive.
You know, from a mental standpoint, if you know that you have teammates who can just shoot the lights out, can do a lot of things on defense and also score pretty much like the way Balkman eluded the defense, then your confidence level will also go up. Guys like Adams are getting the minutes inside. Brickman, they also know psychologically that even if they miss, they have a chance, or the other guys have the chance to get the offensive rebounds. So all of a sudden, it's just like the rim is so much bigger than what it actually is. And it's all part of psychology in the game. And now that you're up by 19 points, it's going to be a lot easier for, as long as they don't play careless basketball, they should maintain this lead and even pat it on.
Speaking of careless, I thought Williams was a little bit careless in that foul he gave up. The Japanese team, the ball was literally 93 feet away from the basket. They had just inbounded that ball, and then Williams committed the foul that sent Toes to the free throw line, but he couldn't get that second one in. Here's Mighty Sports. Bogman attacking Schaefer. Ronaldo getting creative, the pivot and the reverse layup.
Unstoppable. Ronaldo Balkman, 14 points, 60% from the field.
And you know what? With the moves that Bogman pulls off, it seems so easy for him. It's just like he's moving the defenders away or finding the gaps in the defense so easily. There he is, receiving that basketball again. Sending it back out. Adams to Williams. Pull up three. Bucket. Everything working well for Mighty Sports Go for Gold. Their lead has grown to 23 points. Japan calls a timeout, brought to you by Go for Gold. Back inside the Changhua Gymnasium in Chinese Taipei for the action of the 2019 William Jones Cup. This one between Mighty Sports Go for Gold Philippines, who is in full control of this game, up by 23 points over Japan. Thank you for joining us. Judd Sulit and Coach Ryan Gregorio on deck to serve you this ball game. Here is seeing fans being entertained by the basketball over in Taiwan. Why is it that we always make it a point, Coach RG, to send the team to the Jones Cup? I mean, the Philippines, whether it's the national team or a club representing us, much like Mighty Sports, we've been consistently joining this tournament.
Well, for one, we always get invited. There are a lot of Filipinos residing in Taiwan, and they want the energy of Filipino supporters. And they also know the tournament, the organizers also understand how big basketball is in our country. And for us, Filipinos also, we look forward to being in this environment or this kind of a tournament, because it's also a showcase of how good basketball is being played in our country.
Absolutely. Well, Hoshino made a tough jumper there, straight away off the glass. But right now, Japan will just take every single point that they can get. Mackenzie Moore back on the court now. We saw him earlier limping and even having to go back to their dugout. A good sign that he's back. Ronaldo Bachman, though, overpowering Hashimoto. And we talked about how Hashimoto was a big provider. 17 points, 8 rebounds against Chinese Taipei A in that close win Japan got in their first game. But he has been completely neutralized by Mighty Sports.
Oh, he's got his hands full defending Ronaldo Bachman. I had to say it's slow because, you know, when you were born in the 70s and you watched the NBA in the 80s, there was a guy named Ronaldo Blackman playing for the Dallas Mavericks alongside Mark Aguirre, Derek Harper, and you were not going to make that mistake because you started to understand basketball in right after
period.
2010 maybe. And that goes to show how old your partner is
You
in
know what?
basketball.
I remember though, Rolando Blackman, I had an NBA card of him.
Exactly.
And that's why. That's the
So
only
pardon
reason.
me, my friend. And you can correct me if I make a mistake. I was told by my son who's sitting beside me that, Dad, it's Bachman, it's not Blackman.
And so there's a backstory to it.
Yes.
It's a 21-point lead now that Bachman and Mighty Sports have built here. Here's Graham. 3-ball, no good. Well, obviously, Japan is building on something right now. You've been part of Gilas Pilipinas, obviously of SBP. You've scouted Japan so many times, Coach. What is the strength of Japanese basketball?
They are tough defenders. They shoot from the outside. In fact, so consistently from beyond the white line. They also have the strength. The Takeuchi brothers, for example, are both more than 7 feet. And they have the range to shoot from the perimeter all the way from the white line. And they're just so good fundamentally. But the difference maker right now for Japan is really Hachimura. He's the LeBron James of Asia. And that is why all of a sudden, Japan is relevant in the Asian region.
A bad sign right now for Mighty Sports. Earlier, Moore got hurt, and then he was able to recover, get back on the court. But look at him, he fell again underneath the goal. And Moore is just in a lot of pain right now, hoping that everything is okay for Mackenzie. But he's slow to get up. We got word from Paolo Del Rosario, who's all the way over in Chinese Taipei. You see him there near the top of your screens taking photos. Excellent photos, by the way, by Pao.
And Nick Earnshaw. I see Nick Earnshaw there
definitely.
too.
Of course, you might have been familiar with the Nick Earnshaw. I had some episodes up on Facebook before. He's the star of that, but right now, Mighty Sports, their concern is Mackenzie Moore. Hoping that this man is okay.
A lot of concerns, especially for this guy, because it's also part of the guys that Coach Chu is really relying on in terms of generating points. But I saw him go down earlier. Now, if it's not going to be 100%, might as well sit him out and rest him because there will still be a lot of games played. This is a very challenging tournament. You play like 9 games in 10 days. So management of minutes is essential if you want to win it all.
There were tournaments in the Jones Cup where every team had to play a game every day. There were times where there were odd number of teams, so one team had to skip a day. But nonetheless, you know, it's a taxing. Even if you have that day off in the middle of tournament, let's say you play 4 games, rest 1, and play 4 again. That's not easy at all, I'm sure.
The first is really there is a fatigue on the part of your legs. The physical exhaustion is just incredible. And what about the mental exhaustion? Doing the same things over and over again. And I am telling you, because of the frequency of games, you cannot even go to the mall. If you have a break, you just stay in your hotel.
but I have actually been fortunate enough to be able to travel with Gilas Pilipinas a couple of years ago to the Jones Cup. I don't, with the food in Taiwan, you will not want to leave the hotel.
That's right.
That's what I can guarantee you, coach. And this is what happened. So it's just a sprained ankle. Obviously, it still hurts, and it's still something that concerns Mighty Sports, but nothing too serious in that injury for Mackenzie Moore. A sprained left ankle as reported by Paulo Del Rosario. Here's Japan. Still looking to knock on the door of Mighty Sports. You mentioned earlier Hachimura being the LeBron James of Asia right now. I remember before hearing some scouting reports from Gilas Pilipinas. They actually identified another Japanese player as, well, the LeBron James of Japan in Makoto Hijima.
Yes, yes, but it's just so different because you know that Hachimura is a mixed race. He has a little bit of African blood, and he is 6'9", 270, and he's just strong. But with his strength, he does not really lose a lot of his quickness too. If he gets near the basket, 2 feet and below, it's like the game is over. That is how strong it is, and we'll see. In the NBA, you cheer for your Asian neighbors. That is how it is.
Sure.
Like even guys like Yao Ming, they are Asian. Zhu Qi, for example, we also cheer for them, and that is the way it is. But when it comes to like the Asian games, these are all our challengers, so we look at them differently.
Now, when they are in the NBA wearing uniforms of the Washington Wizards, Houston Rockets, we're like, yes, go, make us proud. But then when they're wearing those Chinese or other country uniforms, don't score, please.
We'll make you cry.
Yeah. But it's such a breakthrough. But were you surprised, Coach, that Hachimura was drafted that high? I mean, he was projected to be a first-round pick, but I'm not sure he was in the lottery conversations early on.
Well, 2 things. Number one, because of the resurgence of Japan in the FIBA Asia Cup or FIBA Asia qualifiers, all of a sudden scouts started to look at him. But it is also a huge advantage for him that he's playing in D1. US NCAA basketball, playing for Gonzaga University, and he's just visible. And a lot of scouts saw a lot of potential on 2 aspects. Number one, the ability to help his team, which has struggled tremendously in the last season. And number 2, you look at the Asian market in Japan. So in terms of merchandising, branding the country, and also selling a lot of Washington Wizards merchandise, products and stuff like that, it can be a huge upside.
Yeah, definitely. It's at the end of the day, it's basketball. But if you look at the bigger picture, there are so many things that surrounds the game. And when you're talking about a league as big as the NBA, well, you can say that, I mean, obviously on a smaller scale about the William Jones Cup, you have all these teams coming in, and it's the reason why this is already the 41st edition of the Jones Cup, and it has maintained to be a brand, something that fans, especially Chinese Taipei nationals, have learned to look forward to because of all the other countries coming in. Imagine you also have a team coming from Canada, always consistently playing in this tournament. It's always great basketball.
And even USA basketball was represented a couple of years ago. And of course, huge European countries are also making themselves available to play in this time of the year. It usually happens in July. It's a 10-day tournament. And again, the uniqueness of the format. No playoffs.
Yes.
You just have to put everything on the floor day in, day out, and the win as much as possible. Even the spread is important because it has a quotient system ramification. So again, the energy of these players playing every single day is going to be something that they have to invest on because it can spell the difference between being number 2 and being the champions.
Mighty Sports trying to go for one last try here before the end of the third quarter. Phelps puts it up and drops that jumper. Positive end for Mighty Sports Go for Gold. Well, a lot of things were positive for them in that third quarter. bettering their advantage. At the end of 3, they go up by 20 points. Back inside the Changhua Gymnasium in Taiwan, we have one last quarter remaining between Mighty Sports Go for Gold Philippines and Japan. We are able to hear a little bit of the huddle of Coach Charles Chu, and even though they're up by 20 points with 10 minutes remaining in the game, Coach, he's always preaching, making some reminders. As a coach, what's the need for these? I mean, you can just say, okay, maintain the lead, but of course it's so important to keep that energy and to keep learning, I guess.
Well, coaches will always preach that every time you enter, for example, in between quarters, you look at the score, even if you're up by 20 points, you tell them that it's 0-0, so that you're not going to lose the kind of effort that you're able to do. You make sure also that you keep on getting better. You will not develop bad habits, because usually when you're up big, there is a tendency for players, and it's a human nature thing to rest on your laurels, put your hands down, and just play nonchalant basketball. But remember, this is just their third game. They're still working on their chemistry. They still want to be better as a team, and that is exactly what Coach Chu is trying to tell his players. You cannot relax, just play good basketball until the final buzzer.
And fans still enjoy the action there. It's the 4th and final quarter of this match, brought to you by HealthCube. Will Japan be able to mount a great comeback here? Will Mighty Sports collect their 3rd win in a row? We'll find out in about 10 minutes. Shuta Ando, he's the guy who started things off for Japan, but has completely discombobulated. And he was making plays earlier, Coach, whether it's hitting outside shots or dishing it out to teammates, but his impact has been cut off by Mighty Sports.
Is bothered by the length of the Philippines. We're not just talking about the guys that he's trying to elude. We're also talking about guys who are coming off and challenging his shots, specifically the man of screeners. Japan does a lot of ball screens. And even if the guards go under, and there is an extension of the arm from Balkman, Njai, it can force shooters to change their shots. And that is where Mighty Sports Go for Gold have been so effective all throughout the ball game. Their ability to contest shots, even if they're late, for as long as they put a hand up, it's good fundamental basketball.
And that is also why Mighty Sports is now up by 21 points. Eugene Phelps has not even scored to his average, but it has been enough because there's so much help coming from other guys. Mighty right now has 3 players in double figures, led by the 19 points of Ronaldo Balkman. And Phelps is still fired up. He's actually been, sorry Coach, he's actually been asking for a lot of whistles. Felt that he has been fouled many more times compared to what has been whistled. Do you feel that's the case?
Well, Phelps is actually initiating the contact. You saw that in that clip. He was the one who charged into his defender. Good thing it was not called for an offensive foul. But if there is one thing that this guy has to improve on, really, it is his consistency from the free throw line, because he wants to play dirty inside, closer to the basket, and just play good physical basketball. But at times, especially if you're not stopped all the time, then opponents will have the tendency of just fouling you. Now, if you get fouled, then might as well shoot consistently from the line. And the reason why I see a lot of consistently good plays played by Mighty Sports, aside from Coach Chu is, of course, the master disciplinarian in Coach Raiko Torman. He is part of the coaching staff, and this guy really is a stickler in playing the game the right way.
You know, we're seeing a younger squad here being deployed by Japan. The big block from Enjai. Three-pointer, no good. Enjai with the board. Japan is actually using a couple of 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds here in this tournament. And like you said, it's a lot of experience that they're trying to gain here.
But there was a point even in the development of...
What a jam there!
How old is that guy?
That guy is the one I'm talking about. 18 years old, Haruta Ogawa, throwing it down.
So 18. So that means is he can still play in the under-19 FIBA World Cup. But Japan, unfortunately, did not make it. You know, there are only 2 countries who made it. Of course, you take away Australia and New Zealand. It's just the Philippines and China.
That is such a big feat, of course.
And it's a huge bragging rights for the Philippines that we beat China handily in the under-19 World Cup. That means we're the best Asian team in that age group.
It definitely was, you know, the highlight of that tournament. I mean, it was unfortunate for the Philippines that they lost AJ Edu very early in the tournament. We were just talking off-air a while ago how differently that tournament would have been for the Philippines if Edu was healthy. But you know what, Japan, with Ogawa trying to make a statement there, we can expect them. Like you said, Japanese basketball is quickly on the rise, and they're really turning out to be another challenger in every age level in Asian basketball.
We've been talking about the inspiration of having an NBA player who is Japanese. It is a huge thing for Japanese basketball right now. The level of interest is just tremendous. Now, for the Philippines, it is important for us to be on the right track in terms of the development of our youth basketball, and that is exactly what the Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas is doing. On 3 factors, we want to identify talent, push them and develop them into reaching their full potential, and monitor them just to make sure that there's always a good succession planning in terms of our next generation players in the country. And we just don't want to be part of 3 successive World Cups. That means we were able to make it the last time. We're going to make it again this year. And in 2023, we will also make it. But beyond 2023, we want the Philippines to be a staple in the up-and-coming World Cup editions.
I can just imagine how difficult your job is as Flippin gives up a foul to stop Phelps, instead send them to the free throw line, which is really the only option you have when you have Eugene Phelps coming right at you in full speed. All you really try to do is either get out of the way
That's right.
or foul him hard enough to just send him to the free throw line.
And just make sure it's not an end one.
But Phelps has been rather steady from the line as well. Just going back to your point, Coach Ryan, I can just imagine, you know, you worry about winning right now when you're involved with national teams. You worry about, you know, of course, putting up a gallant stand, preparing right now for the 2019 FIBA World Cup. But you also have to be busy looking ahead and make sure that in years from now, you'll still have a competitive team.
It is what you call talent pipeline. We all know we have a lot of basketball players in our country, but it is a continuous development. Aside from playing the game, it is also understood that basketball is a ticket out of poverty for most of our players. So 2 things right now. The end game should be, it's either they make it to the PBA or they represent the country by wearing the Gilas Pilipinas jersey. And that is what the Federation is trying to do at this point. Now for Mighty Sports, it is also essential that they partnered with us, the Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas, to continuously be visible in this sport. And thanks also to the owners, Cesar Wong Choking and Alex Wong Choking, for fighting it out and just making sure that the development is not going to end. It is continuing, and it is like at some point we also want to see a Filipino playing in the NBA.
Coach, for Nico Williams, I feel for that man. That's his third missed dunk of the game already. We'll see it again, I believe, here. It was actually a great pass from Post, setting him up, but he was challenged by Phelps there.
But what was he trying to do? I mean, from a coach, it's simple. A slam dunk is the same as a layup. If you don't have enough elevation to stuff it in, might as well go for the easy two. He has gotten 3 chances and 0 out of 3. Hopefully on the next one, he will just go for the easy two.
And I'm not even sure if he'll have a next attempt, but you know, right now, Japan is just trying their very best to get anything they can. That's great defense from Phelps, stopping the 18-year-old Ogawa. But Phelps caught a bit of the arm, and he sent the Japanese player to the free throw line. Ogawa is, you know, his build does not look like an 18-year-old.
And it seems like he's a mixed race. He is not your typical Japanese-looking player. And that is also part of our talent identification program. For people watching the Jones Cup tournament, you are allowed to play as a Filipino even if you have a mixed blood for as long as you get a passport before you reach the age of 16. So calling on all Filipinos abroad, if your basketball skills is higher than the age group, then might as well make your presence felt. The federation is really looking at that segment we're in. It's going to be a strong program for us because mixed race or mixed Filipinos should have equal opportunity, pretty much the same as natural-born Filipinos to represent the country.
Right, obviously a big part of our national team. I mean, we've been reinforced. We've been very lucky to have guys like Gabe Norwood. Obviously, has been part of the national team for so long, and we've just Philippine basketball is just really infused with a lot of different races and mixed something. And while obviously it has been a very tricky topic to tackle, Coach Ryan, because sometimes, you know, teams or purists would say, I'd rather see a full Filipino team, but they have been helping us achieve what we have achieved in Philippine basketball.
That's myopic. That is small-scale thinking. We want to expand. It's globalization right now. Again, for as long as we are represented in the FIBA tournaments by Filipinos, then might as well embrace that. It is such a huge debate right now, specifically on the topic involving Jordan Clarkson.
Yes.
So those are the things that hopefully, if we know the rules, then might as well maximize it.
Mikey Williams was not able to get anything on that attack. He was frustrated, felt like he was fouled, but they'll keep possession. Exactly 5 minutes remaining in this ball game. Mighty Sports now putting in Coach Charles Chu, now putting in Gab Banal on the floor.
And it's nice to see 2 second-generation players. We're talking about Gab Banal and
Aaron Black.
Black.
Yeah. Of course, they are both sons of excellent coaches.
Exactly.
And even better basketball players when they were still active. Joel Banal for Gab and Coach Norman Black for Aaron.
Coach Norman Black, of course, is helping out his son develop the way he envisions his son to play. He's got skills, obviously. But what is so nice now is for him to get the experience to play in international competitions. I've seen this guy play, and he can definitely hoop.
Hey, Coach, add another to the counter of missed Japan dunks. That one, though, was from Hoshino. And Pogman overpowers the defense of Japan. Is there something wrong with the basket of Japan? But it's just been unfortunate for them. That was a really wide open, and going back to your point earlier, would have been easy 2 points. Nonetheless, it's a timeout called by Japan. This one is brought to you by Go for Gold. Philippines up by 29 points right now. Hope you got a glimpse of that quarter scoring. It was really in the second quarter that Japan could not buy a basket, and they've also been limited by Mighty Sports so far to just 8 points, 6 minutes into this fourth period.
The biggest problem really is the guys trying to score on the things that they're not used to doing. 8 points potentially lost because they wanted to slam the ball hard, but instead of just going for a nice easy layup, and as a result they're down 30 points. Look at the first 2 games of the Philippines. It was a huge beatdown against Iran to the tune of 26 points. Then the following day against Jordan, up by 16 at the end of 40 minutes of play, and now another easy game for them. But tomorrow might be a different case. I have not seen Canada play, but they'll go up against Canada on Monday, and then South Korea on Tuesday. They have a long break after that one. They won't play till Friday against Indonesia. Then back-to-back games, Saturday, Sunday against Chinese Taipei A and Chinese Taipei B on Sunday.
And that is the unique thing about this year's schedule. You know, they get 2 days off, or 3 days off actually. Not 2 days, sorry. 17 and the 18. I got my math wrong, but yes, they got 2 days. And you were talking about previous editions where teams would not even get a single day off. And for these teams, usually, coach, they play in the afternoon, and if it's later in the afternoon, if the game is later in the afternoon, they even hold shoot around early in the morning.
And let me qualify my statement. I think with that kind of a break, I mean, players might probably have time to go to the mall. But, you know, for coaches who are hard-working coaches like me and
Like Coach Charles Chu?
Coach Charles Chu, I think he will just spend his time scouting his opponents.
I'm
just
pretty
making sure that his team will improve. And this is not really a picnic. It is not like you go to Taipei and look at the sights. It is a different situation. Look at this guy. He's been winning a lot of championships, and he deserves to coach this team.
You know, I'm thinking about it, and I have never seen you at the mall. You never go to the mall, you're always busy working.
Thank you for validating my statement.
2.5 minutes remaining here. Mighty Sports go for gold. On top, comfortably, by 31 points. Banal working against Ogawa. They dump it down low to Bogman. Oh, miscommunication there, but ball will stay with Mighty Sports. 6.9 seconds on their shot clock.
And shout out also to Dominic Uy, who has a very important role in this franchise.
Which is what?
I think he's part of the inner circle of Cesar Wong Chuking, the owner of Mighty Sports, and he's handling a lot of the media affairs and the marketing aspect of this franchise.
Oh, for sure you'll hear Dom cover some of the games.
I think it's flying out. It's going to time. Obviously not going to the malls too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, right now, Mighty Sports is on their way to collecting their 3rd consecutive win. And like you said, they'll be up against much tougher competition moving forward. Canada and Korea are up next. What do you expect? It's the basketball that I know you mentioned earlier you haven't really seen much from Canada. But just thinking about the basketball we've seen from Mighty Sports, do you think this is going to be enough, you know, to have a good finish in this tournament?
I think so. They're just lording it over. They're obviously the strongest team so far in the first 3 days of competition. I want to see Canada tomorrow, then South Korea. South Korea, we've always had problems because they're just impeccable shooters from the outside. I think Indonesia will have a hard time going up against us. They were beaten by Jordan handily just before this ball game. And of course, Chinese Taipei A lost to Japan. So things are looking bright for Mighty Sports Go for Gold in this tournament.
Of course, we'll definitely be looking forward to that game against Korea because Korea is always bringing their national team to the Jones Cup. We'll go up against Raguna, aka Ricardo Ratliff, a very familiar name to Philippine basketball, and a lot of the guys who I think is still very fresh in the memories of Filipino basketball fans because of the Asian Games and how we lost to them.
We always have a hard time competing against South Korea. Way back, Shin Dong-pa, Lee Chung-hee, Her Jae, to name a few. Probably you don't know those names, so just Google them.
I just know Her Jae.
Her Jae, yeah. He used to be a coach also, but an incredible player back in the day.
Mighty Sports 15 seconds away from getting another win in the William Jones Cup. They will stay perfect. Ronaldo Bogman will get 2 more points. I thought he was going to pull an Arwin Santos there. He might get teed up. But yeah, Ronaldo Bogman was at the forefront of this Mighty Sports Go for Gold attack.
He was just all over the place on both ends. He was making his presence felt on defense. He was practically unstoppable on offense. He was just bullying his way inside. And Coach Charles Chu, 3 straight wins for the young guy. And this one by far is the most impressive.
Ronaldo Bogman finishing with 27 points and 12 rebounds to boot. And he also had a lot of help. Eugene Phelps with 19 points and 7 rebounds. Mikey Williams, a gallant introduction in this game, having scored 17 points for himself. Take a look at the quarter scoring. Big fourth quarter for Mighty Sports Go for Gold. And it was their offense as well as their defense doing wonders for the team.
It is just so lopsided after the first few minutes of play wherein Japan jumped to a 12-5 lead. It was all Mighty Sports Go for Gold from that time on. And again, we've talked about the mastery of this team and their ability to play good basketball. Chemistry is definitely present in time for their game against Canada tomorrow.
And that does it for us. For my partner, Coach Ryan Gregorio, for the entire team behind this coverage of the William Jones Cup, my name is Judd Sulit. Catch you next game as Mighty Sports will go up against Canada.
That's happening right now for the Blackwater Elite. They were down big, and then that run that they had cut the lead down to just 2. because of the shooters, really the players that Coach Aris Damunahan has right now in his disposal. They can all knock down shots. They are all playmakers. And it's one of the reasons why they are one of the best teams here in the Commissioner's Cup.
Now Manuel. Smart move against Mac Mello.